What's up, Kasagai? This is Kevin Wood from Mumbai. I hope you're doing great, my BEA beautiful peoples. Welcome back to the channel, and today, welcome again to another top 5 classics that we're gonna be discussing. We're gonna be talking about top 5 Jim Carrey movies to watch. Of course, Jim Carrey has more than 5 hits and classics to his name, like The Cable Guy, Bruce Almighty, Ace Ventura, and who could forget The Mask? But these are movies that you would anyways watch. Today, what I'm gonna be talking about are movies that you have definitely 10% missed on watching, or if you've watched, what is the wonder? Watch it again. Definitely, I'm sure that at least one movie from the list would be something that you have not watched till date, and I would highly recommend you watch it before you miss it. So let's get this started.
Alrighty then.
So starting with the number 5, we have this movie called Fun with Dick and Jane, starring Jim Carrey, T. Leone, Alec Baldwin and Richard Jenkins. This crime comedy basically released in 2005, directed by Dean Parasot and produced on a budget of 10 crore USD. So the story basically revolves around Jim Carrey and T. Leone, a happily married couple who are at the same time trying to raise the standard of living and trying to bring up a child. Where Jim Carrey is also a perfect employee, T. Leone plays her role in order to take care of the financials in the family. What happens here is, as Jim Carrey is basically highly motivated in order to get on the corporate ladder in his work, is highlighted as the one who can literally take on for the company. This boss basically calls him up to show up for the company on a national television broadcast. Less knowing of what is coming, Jim Carrey signs up for it, and then disasters happen. The company basically files bankruptcy. And in the meantime, as Jim Carrey was pretty confident about, making the best for his family, he also had asked his wife to leave his job. And that's where the whole challenge comes in, where both the partners are basically jobless and the desperation calls to maintain the lifestyle and bring up the child comes in. As I stated, the movie was made on a budget of 10 crore USD. The movie basically managed to pull up pretty good records of 20.47 crore USD as a profit margin on the box office. So I would call this a perfect Saturday night Netflix and chill series to watch. It's actually a movie. Going down on the list on number 4, we have the classic movie called Yes Man, which is again the Jim Carrey star rom-com, co-starring opposite Jim Carrey, Zoe Deschanel, Bradley Cooper, Terence Stamp and Danny Masterson. The movie is directed by Peter Reed, and this took complete production budget of 7 crore USD. Looking at the previous record, 23.32 crore USD on the box office, which is a better ROI. Before I get into the storyline, what is the most amazing part about Jim Carrey? He's basically one of the only persons that I've known of who's written himself a check of $1 million US for his acting services rendered even before he made it to the big screen. And he gave himself a time of 5 years, and along The Mask and other movies coming in, he actually broke that record and made that $1 million US. Isn't that inspiring? In this movie, Jim Carrey basically plays the character of Carl, and Bradley Cooper and the others play the character of his good friends along the way. Now Carl is basically a guy who has a very, very low esteem for himself after his broken marriage and looks at everything in the possiblest narrow way, and the answer is always no for whatever you ask. What happens here is Carl happens to bump into a friend who suggests him to go for a seminar. Now when he visits the seminar, he basically happens to make a covenant with the one who set up the seminar to say yes to everything that he goes through in his lifetime. And that's when things turn around. And of course, Jim Carrey being in the picture, you can only imagine how hilarious, how entertaining this movie can be. Zoe Deschanel, who plays a beautiful love interest to him. At the time of shooting, Jim Carrey was 42 and Zoe Deschanel was 25, and still they basically managed to script such a beautiful rapport. It's just an awesome experience to watch it. It is a feel good movie, and definitely will help you change perspectives along the way. At number 3, we have another classic. Actually, to speak, it's more than a classic, and a movie which was truly beyond its time when it was made. Starring Jim Carrey, of course, along with Kate Winslet, Kristen Dunst, Mark Ruffalo, Elijah Wood, and Tom Wilkinson. That's Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind. Screenplay by Charlie Kaufman, directed by Michael Gondry. Basically, this movie just grips you into the entire plot as it starts. Viewing it is going to be a different pleasure altogether. I promise this, even after giving this out. The movie basically helps you witness the emerging relationship of Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet as Joel and Clementine, and a completely out of the box connection that starts somewhere down the line. Now the awesome screenplay is what makes it more interesting, because every switch in the scenes makes you think, what is this happening, what is this now, what is this going to be getting to. Moving along, the movie helps you witness some of the most beautiful things, as that you experience in a relationship, and at the same time brings you to the most heartbreaking things as well. I basically watched this movie in a time where I literally wasn't in a relationship, but I felt what it would be like when your heart breaks and aches, to a point that you actually want to give up on every thought of that individual. So I basically would suggest you to go ahead and definitely watch this movie, as it is a very, very gripping experience. Actors have done a brilliant job, into the movie. Now, any of these movies that I'm speaking of right now, everyone has literally given their best in every scene, in every role, in every character that they've played. Coming down to number 2 on our list, that is The Truman Show. This is basically a sci-fi drama movie starring Ed Harris, Laura Linney, Lauren Garland, and Noah Emmerich. Directed by Pierre, even this movie is something that I felt was way beyond its time because it's just so amazingly done. Jim Carrey plays the role of Truman Burbank, who's basically a banking accountant guy who does his daily job, has a wife to take care of, has a friend whom he chills with, and whatever time he gets, he does his gardening, he chills around the beach, looking at the possibility of the potential of his life, that so much more is that he wants to do. And as the movie progresses, comes certain events in his life or certain encounters when he finds suspicious things happening around him, with his family, with his friends. There is a single pattern to everything happening, is when he decides to go on his own and try to find out what is there beyond what it is. So as an audience, you are also kind of confused and distinguish exactly what is happening on screen, because at one point you see a perfect life, at another point you see some other people who are just interacting around the screen, and like, I need to know there's something wrong, and I hope this guy gets where he wants to get, because he's just not able to get out of that loop. And that's what basically makes it more interesting. It's more of an experience than watching. It feels like you are with that guy, you are with the character, and you really want him to do and want him to get wherever he is that he's designed to get. As a Jim Carrey fan, you will definitely love this. Who isn't a fan of Jim Carrey anyways, guys? Speaking of being a fan of Jim Carrey, the next movie is gonna be literally blowing up your mind. Finally, we on the top one of a countdown with The Man on the Moon. That's where the cookie crumbles. This movie is basically a biography, drama, comedy. The director of the movie is Milos Forman, based on the life of on-screen entertainer for America, not only in one way but in a lot of ways, called Andy Kaufman. He's one of the most controversial entertainers throughout history, and when you see the movie, you will come to know exactly why. What is the best part about this movie, guys? Before watching this movie, what I would highly suggest is, this movie has a biography on Jim Carrey as well, which is being released on Netflix. So basically the whole making of the movie has been placed on Netflix, the impact that the character had on Jim while playing the movie. Now, as I said, this movie literally shocked everyone to their heads, because Jim, while playing this movie, wasn't Jim at the time. He said, let me get into method acting and let me live as Andy lived in his character. And looking and learning into Andy's character also, Andy never actually played only his character. He also played another character along the side as an entertainer, but which was a secret identity kind of thing, without anyone knowing the fact that it was actually him playing this other character. What's the best part and the worst part probably is, it shows you the commitment that Jim had as an actor to get into the head of Andy and doing exactly what it required to do justice to this movie, which wasn't a very merry-go-round for Jim by the time the movie ended. It was definitely a troublestorm for the set, for the actors. The director at one point literally stated to Jim, I need Jim to play this character. I don't need Andy on the set because it's making it really tough for me and shoot the movie and literally going around this entire scenario. And at that point, Jim basically told him, okay, Jim is not here, but do you want me to tell him that you would love him to play this character because he's a good impressionist? And that is the time the director realized, if I ask him to step off the ledge and play Andy as Jim and not Andy itself, it would not really make that difference. And that is when they went through the troublesome and they literally got through. Now let's talk about the cast of the movie. The movie is basically playing along co-stars like Danny DeVito, Courtney Love, Jerry Lawler and Bob Smuda. Also Paul Giamatti. The cast who's there in this movie, most of them have actually also worked with Andy when he was alive. Jim was completely damaged by the end of the movie because he was so attached to the character of Andy that he literally went on a vacation from his own character. Now, if you're an actor, you will definitely connect to what I'm trying to say here. People were so impressed from the industry looking at him here, requested Jim to not get well at least for the next 1 year, as the Truman Show had another year to go through in order to get into the production. So guys, that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of 5 classic movies by Jim Carrey. I definitely loved it because I got to know him so much better while learning about all his movies. If you enjoyed this video, you know definitely what to do. The options are all around you. Apart from this, if you like travel vlogs, if you like daily vlogs, if you like concept reveals, so I have different playlists on this channel. Just go around somewhere around here, you'll find it. Let me know what is the next thing that you would want me to cover, what is the next genre that you would want me to cover, or the next actor that you would want me to cover. Oh, in case if I don't see ya, good morning, good night, good afternoon, bye bye, and good evening as well. God bless for sakes.